Welcome to my channel. Today, we're answering the question, does crime have a bloodline? For more questions logically answered, stay tuned for new episodes every week. The question, does crime have a bloodline, is one that has been pondered by philosophers, criminologists, and the general public alike since time began. The answer may surprise you. Let's get into it. We tend to think of crime as an action or set of actions that violate societal norms and laws, punishable by the state. But what creates this concept of acceptable behavior in society? What dictates which actions are criminalized and what the punishments for those crimes should be? To understand how these decisions are made, we need to take a step back and look at the history of crime and punishment. Crime has always existed. It predates written history. Even if human beings had not developed language or any other complex cognitive abilities, there would still be antisocial behavior. Much of this early behavior was driven by basic survival instincts, like obtaining food and defending oneself from predators. As humans evolved and societies developed, so did our concept of what constituted a crime. The earliest known written laws date back to ancient Mesopotamia around 2000 BCE. These laws dealt with such issues as theft, assault, and rape, but also included provisions for the treatment of slaves and other members of society who were considered inferior. Ancient Egyptian law was highly dependent on the ruler, its divine authority, and emphasized the importance of maintaining order in society. In ancient Greece, the concept of justice emerged with philosophers like Plato and Aristotle discussing the nature of a good society and the role of the law. Roman law, known for its codification and systematic approach, had a significant impact on Western legal traditions. During the Middle Ages in Europe, religious beliefs heavily influenced the definition of crimes, which often focused on moral and religious issues. The emergence of humanism during the Renaissance led to a more secular approach to law and the beginnings of criminal psychology. In the 18th century, Cesare Beccaria's treatise on crimes and punishments advocated for a more rational and equitable criminal justice system. During the Industrial Revolution, new laws were enacted to address issues related to factories, urbanization, and public health. In the 20th century, the focus shifted to social and economic inequality, leading to reforms in areas such as civil rights and women's rights. Today, the study of crime and its causes is a multidisciplinary field with various perspectives and theories. Sociological approaches examine how social factors contribute to crime, while psychological perspectives explore individual motivations and behaviors. As you can see, the concept of crime has changed dramatically over time and varies greatly between cultures. So there isn't a universal agreement on what exactly constitutes a crime. And the punishments for particular acts can differ widely depending on the context. Now that we know crime is largely determined by societal and cultural norms, let's get back to the question. Does crime have a bloodline? A bloodline refers to the lineage or ancestry of an individual. In other words, it refers to the genes they have inherited from their ancestors. Humans inherit half of their genetic material from their mother and half from their father, and this genetic material is contained in their DNA. DNA is found in almost all of the body's cells and serves as the blueprint for all living things. Genes are segments of DNA that carry hereditary information and are responsible for specific traits and characteristics. They determine everything from eye color to susceptibility to certain diseases. When we talk about the bloodline of a person, we are referring to the transmission of these genes from one generation to the next. This transmission occurs during reproduction, when the genes from both parents are combined in the offspring. When parent has a gene for a particular trait, say a predisposition to heart disease, and the other parent does not, then there is a 50% chance that the child will inherit that gene and therefore have an increased risk for heart disease. If both parents have the gene, then the child has a 100% chance of inheriting it. So to answer the question of whether crime has a bloodline, we need to ask another question. Are there genes that make people more likely to commit crimes? The answer is probably yes, but only in some cases. The idea that criminal behavior is influenced by genetic factors has been around for a long time. In the early 20th century, the criminal was thought to be born rather than made. Most criminologists today believe that both genetic and environmental factors play a role in the likelihood that a person will engage in criminal activity. Research has shown that certain genes may be associated with an increased risk for behavioral problems, including aggression and impulsivity, which could potentially lead to criminal behavior. However, it is important to note that having these genes does not mean that a person will definitely commit crimes. It simply means that they may be more susceptible to them. Furthermore, environmental factors such as childhood trauma, exposure to violence and substance abuse can also play a significant role in shaping behavior. To further complicate the matter, the definition of crime itself is subjective and influenced by societal norms and laws, which change over time and vary across cultures. Therefore, it is difficult to draw a clear line between what is considered normal or acceptable behavior and what is deemed criminal. Additionally, even if there were genes that were strongly associated with criminal behavior, it would raise ethical concerns about genetic testing and discrimination. Imagine a world where potential employers or insurance companies could test your DNA and assess your risk for engaging in criminal activities. Such a scenario could lead to significant ethical dilemmas and exacerbate existing social inequalities. Moreover, it is important to recognize that individuals who have been convicted of crimes are still members of society who deserve rehabilitation and reintegration. Focusing solely on their genetic makeup could contribute to the stigmatization and marginalization of these individuals, hindering their ability to lead productive and fulfilling lives. In conclusion, the question of whether crime has a bloodline is a complex one that involves the interplay of genetics, environment, and societal norms. While research has shown that certain genes may be associated with an increased risk for criminal behavior, it is important to consider the limitations of this research and the ethical implications of genetic testing and discrimination. Rather than viewing crime as something inherent to an individual's bloodline, it is more accurate and compassionate to understand it as the product of multiple interacting factors. By recognizing the complexities of this issue, we can work towards creating a more just and equitable society for all. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Does X Have a Bloodline? If you did, please subscribe and leave a like. Share this video with others who might find it interesting and leave a comment below with your thoughts, feedback, or suggestions for future episodes. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in the next video.